With the President of Australian Sailing, Matt Allen, the owner of the fleet of Ichibans, and he's just given out the Barrenjoey pins to some wonderful sailors. So it's been a good day for you today, Matt.
Yeah, Jeff, it's been some years of effort to get the Barrenjoey pin up and running, and a lot of research, and also with the Australian Sailing Hall of Fame that we launched last year, and obviously going into the second induction of awards later on this year. I think it's really important to remember the history of sailing, and I think as a sport sometimes we don't celebrate our past, and I think it's very important to understand our past and build on that. And obviously going forward, I think remembering history is such a very important thing, and a great opportunity to do it whilst the memories are still vibrant and alive, and we're researching them with the Australian National Maritime Museum and bringing a lot of those stories back into life. And obviously that's going to continue now for many, many years, and hopefully all the way into the future, as far as we can see. So some very important things for the sport, and a lot of fun doing it. Some great memories, some great sailors, some great successes, and very dominant as a country in so many fields, whether it be the Olympics, the Volvo Ocean Race, or the America's Cup. Australia leads the way in all three of those events, and obviously will continue to do so going forward.
I've seen you around the Volvo, the stopovers in Auckland and around the place. Are you going over for the finish?
I'm not quite sure that I'll get to the finish, but we'd certainly like to have a bigger involvement somehow in the Volvo Ocean Race going forward. Australia is probably the most dominant nationality in the race. Obviously, there's only been one proper Australian entrant in the history of the race, which was our slightly underfunded campaign in 2005-06. So I'd like to see that, another Australian campaign. But it's very important, I think, for Australian sailing, to be interacting with these premier events. Obviously the Olympics, the America's Cup, which Australia's very much involved in a number of areas, and obviously the Volvo Ocean Race.
Do you ever foresee an America's Cup challenge coming out of this country?
Look, not on this next edition, but there's certainly people who are keen to do it. Time will tell. It would be nice to have an Australian entry, but obviously to keep Australia's involvement at a very high level is probably the most important thing. And obviously with the change of nationality with the 36 America's Cup, it restricts Australia's involvement slightly. So if that's going to continue, obviously an Australian entry might become more important going forward.
Do you see Australian sailing getting mixed up in these sorts of things? You're promoting things like in the business sector of getting these things together? Are these sort of
well, I think we want to be a facilitator. I think it's important that Australian sailing is aware of what's going on, tries to facilitate and assist where it can. That is not that we're going to launch an America's Cup challenge from Australian sailing.
Oh no,
but we'll certainly be doing anything we can to help people that may be interested in doing it, and it's very important now that we've got, and Australian sailing's been very much at the forefront of rescheduling the sailing events throughout the world, and bringing all the events around the world, all the major events, into the sort of Olympiad cycle. So now we've convinced the Volvo Ocean Race and the America's Cup to follow the Olympiad cycle. That is terrific for our sport. It's great for our sailors. It's great for everybody. So people can now more easily predict when the next America's Cup is, following the Olympics and the next Volvo Ocean Race, and that's taken a while, and that's been very much led by us to try and encourage people to drop into that Olympiad cycle, and that's a win-win for everybody in the sport.
Well, as the results of what's been happening in the past as far as Australian sailing is concerned, and the successes, you've got a great story to take to government to get them to get in behind you and to play with you into getting these sort of projects going. And things like, we'd love to see something like an entry in the Vendee Globe.
Yeah.
Picking somebody who is Australian, who is a great sailor, giving them a good boat, and getting into something like that, because it's a sensational sporting event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the Volvo Ocean Race and the Vendee Globe sort of coming together to some degree in terms of the boats becoming more similar, I would predict that that opens up a lot of opportunities. The scheduling of those events and the overlay of sailors from event to event, is terrific. Great opportunity. It's very important for us to be involved and at least be at the forefront of what's happening in the sport in every area of that sort of top level of the sport.
Lots of rumbling around regarding the changing of the classes in the Olympics.
Yes, it was an interesting meeting in London, to say the least. It was hard to, unfortunately, pick a submission that really had, that was broadly supported and enabled, all the different areas to succeed. Obviously, one of the things that we've got to do as a sport is to increase our media penetration and into the Olympics. We're in the second bottom group as a sport, Group D, and we've got to design events that will take us into Group B or Group C, and we've got to aim at that as a sport. And I think there's a lot more work to be done before we can actually, as a sport, have aspirations to really get up into that group, into a one or two higher levels of group. And it's not just about the money that flows out of the Olympic Games. It's about actually broadening the appeal of the sport right across the globe, because that will help every country. It'll help many yacht clubs. It'll help the number of people that go sailing, and essentially what we want to do is grow the sport.
But if you're taking traditional type sailing classes out and putting in hybrids, what's that going to do to it?
Well, I think I think you actually need to have a cross section of events in the Olympics. You've got to keep some of the traditional classes. You've got to keep the universal classes. You've got to add some excitement into it, whether that be the offshore or kiteboarding, things that are going to transform the sport, as well as keeping the traditional elements. So without more medals, not everyone can be a winner, and to be quite honest, it's very hard to get a consensus from the Council of World Sailing. So more work to be done. Australia, especially via Sarah Kenny, being the chair of the events committee, has sort of been leading the charge on that. But it's an incredibly complex solution for the sport, and at the moment I don't feel like we've got quite the right decision to take the sport forward. But more work is being done behind the scenes, and obviously the next meeting in late October we'll review some of those issues and look at equipment decisions and go forward from there.
What about the Paras?
Well, we've obviously the equipment is being sorted for the Paralympics. Obviously, we've got to get back into the Paralympics. Very important that we do as a sport. I think we can be somewhat confident that that is going to be a positive decision for sailing.
You think so, do you?
I think so. But it's not until the announcement is made. It's not a sure bet.
Oh well, we can't have another exclusive this week, can we?
Well, yeah. Well, look, it's essential for sailing, and it's essential for Paralympic athletes that sailing gets back into the Paralympics.
I agree
Absolutely
completely.
essential.
Oh, 100%. And what about Australian sailing? What's the future there for the next 12 months, Matt?
Well, we've got a number of things, projects underway. The main project is really making sure that the Australian sailing team is getting ready for Tokyo 2020. We have a terrific relationship with the Japanese and the Japanese Sailing Federation. We've obviously got a rich history sailing in Enoshima in Tokyo that dates back to 1964. So we're looking forward to success. We've got a number of athletes that are coming back into sailing, and attempting to represent Australia in 2020 in Tokyo. Obviously, there's 2 years plus a little bit to go, so time is of the essence to get our campaign well up and running, and obviously the next few months with the next few events are going to be critical, but there's a lot of work to be done, and great to have some very strong leadership under Ian Murray getting to grips with the challenges and the opportunities of Tokyo 2020.
Yes, that was a well-placed appointment, that one. And well said, beside the boat that won the gold medal in the previous Olympic Games in Tokyo.
Yeah, it's terrific. I mean, when we launched the Sailing Hall of Fame, I did it in front of Barrenjoey. It's a rich piece of Australian sailing history.
Certainly
right
is.
Here.
Thank you, Matt.
Pleasure, Jeff.